everybody. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can make this work. Good morning, everybody. Oh, look, my camera's all twisted and too much green. All this direction. This better. That's better. Okay. Oh my gosh. Hi. I'm a little tired this morning. When you're teching and singing from like 5 to 1 a.m., that's a lot. Yeah, it's a whole bunch. But it was really fun. And I'm sorry if I'm wearing, like, this is the only jacket I had in the house here. It was in my closet, and it's very chilly out here in the room. So I understand, like, I look like heavy vetter right now. But at home, drawing pictures. Whew. But you know, I've got to stay warm. And anyways, lovely to have you join me here for HAL Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. Philip Ittner is going to be joining us at 9:30 so that I can get a full hour of him, be out by 10:30, and be on the road because I want to be back in time to do my regular show this afternoon. So I'm driving back to Vegas. I was going to do it last night and then try and get up. But since I got out at 1, I would have gotten in at 5, and then this show would have been a psychotic mess. I can't vouch for how it's going to be in general, but I can for sure say that if I had tried to do a show this morning after driving all night just to get back home, because I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride, I would have just been gibberish, quite frankly. And speaking of gibberish, how about that Herschel Walker? I will say, before we even get started, that Herschel Walker's concession speech made more sense than almost anything I've seen him say, which to me says he never wanted the job in the first place, that it was largely a mix of ego trip and other people pushing him in that direction, and there was a sense of relief when he didn't actually make it. So when he gave his speech that he was done, you know, still on the Herschel Walker standard, it was far superior to most of the other speeches he'd made. Again, very telling. And there's a ton going on. Lisa Miamore, thank you for the super chat, by the way. And don't forget, folks, look at the gifts is from the peoples down there. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget, you can support the show through super chats and points, and you can subscribe, and you can follow if you're on Twitch, and that doesn't cost you anything. And same thing with subscribing on YouTube. That didn't cost you anything, but you can become a member there, and you can gift memberships there. And then patreon.com/HalSparks, and at any level, or all levels, I don't know. And then Facebook. I think we should be back up on Facebook today, correct? Let me know, chat room, if Facebook is all right. Facebook was temporarily down for a time. I don't see them in the chat this morning, so it might still be an issue. Yeah, hold on one second. Let me see if I can remedy that. Where's the... yeah, so... yeah, according to this, we're streaming and we're good. Okay, cool. Like it. Sometimes you got to check. You know what I'm saying? All right, and then back up to here. And then... closing this page. What was this one? And then, okay, cool. Let me take this and we'll minus that page and we'll put this back. Okay, here we go. Now, lots of stuff trending this morning. Some of it extraordinarily serious and surprising. And before we even get into it, I am going to analogize parts of this story, the first one that's trending, based on sort of the media coverage and conversation. None of it pertains to the people involved directly in the trend that we're going to see this morning, which, if you don't know, Ted Cruz is trending this morning right out of the gate because apparently his daughter was rushed to the hospital last night with self-inflicted wounds. So read that as you will. And the this was this, you know, this, I saw this morning at like Christ when I kind of automatically woke up because Chip usually wakes me up at 5:30 in the morning, my cat, and since I'm not home, not at that home anyways, I kind of automatically wake up. And so I was like, oh God, I got to go back to sleep because I haven't had that much sleep to begin with. And then I I check the East Coast trends and then go back to sleep in these cases. This is a incredibly painful and horrible thing to happen to anybody. I don't wish it on anybody. And I will not tolerate any language around me personally that throws any kind of shade their way at this moment emotionally about what's going on with a daughter or any of that stuff. There's so much to unpack here. No doubt it will happen, but like this is a real situation that is horrifying for everyone involved. I immediately, I couldn't help but immediately picture the scene in Heat. Are you guys familiar with the movie Heat? There is a scene where, Natalie Portman plays Al Pacino's girlfriend's daughter. He's very close to her, and she attempts something similar in the movie, and he finds her, and it is horrifying. I have to say I love that movie, and it's great, and there's so much good acting in it, but that is one of the saddest and scariest scenes you will ever watch on film. And for anyone to experience that for real, there is a line between that and normal discourse that is, it is thicker, deeper, and more fraught than the 39th parallel. It is it's a parallel dimension to where most people operate. Anytime something shocking happens in someone's life, surprise diagnosis, car accident, the volcanic eruptions, horrible, situations, stray bullets, all the kind of stuff that you kind of know of because they're in the news or you've seen them in stories. When they happen to you or they happen to someone close, the shock and connection in your cells to reality in those moments is overwhelming. It puts everything in instant perspective, and it shocks you back to a sense of awareness of every second. It's like, when car accidents go slow motion. And my heart goes out to everybody dealing with this, to her, the family, and the cascading hearing of the news and how it impacts everybody. It's not on the same level as the normal discourse. I want to be abundantly clear about that. And I need everybody to feel that in their bones a bit as it comes up. That you don't have to morally and ethically talk yourself into behaving. It just you should have a deeper understanding, I think, or try to have a deeper understanding of the actual circumstance of something that went that far, that goes that deep. Now, I will say that in the case of Paul Pelosi, for example, Ted Cruz himself and others were among many people who made up stories around what had happened to Paul Pelosi, or exaggerated it, or tried to manipulate, what facts they did have as they were coming out for political purposes, negating that actual reality. Because even the attack on Paul Pelosi has achieved sort of mythological status at this point. But the depth of the attack and what happened to him and what could have happened to him because of it, there are human beings involved in all aspects of that. In a moment where, the police officers that witnessed that attack are taking that trauma home. Because they thought he'd been struck dead right in front of them. And you don't just get to look at that and go, it's another day at the office. It doesn't work that way. And so everybody involved, there's we get desensitized to things because we have to. I have no grudge against people for being desensitized against violence when it happens. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go on. But when you're actively engaged in considering something like this or communicating about it, that's when you allow yourself to feel it. Make sure that you do. That's my own personal feeling. Okay, end of rant in that regard. That said, okay, so I will say I'm very proud of a lot of the people talking about this today that are the reaction from Democrats and and people on the left is pretty damn consistent. And should remain that way. Yeah, and then there's some people like this that are like jumping in. And by the way, Jack Mouse 77, there's no reason to take any of this seriously. Also, I would like to remind you that when you do see like spoiler accounts and people being trollish and that kind of stuff, when they have a cartoon figure and a name that doesn't match their name and it's all just generic-y bullshit, can you also disengage in those moments and don't allow your empathy or your anger or your self-righteousness or your care to be weaponized against you by randos that may not even be real? And there was not, like this, we watched Real America's Voice this morning from 7 to noon. Wow, this lady woke up and watched RAV from 7 to noon. That's the story in this tweet. There was not one word about Ted Cruz's daughter trying to do that. Yeah, wonder if that's really true. I mean, that's because RAV isn't bothering to talk about it or pre-tapes their morning news or some awful, this woman is apparently thinking it was faked or it's not real. But this is a child in pain like that. His oldest daughter's 14, his youngest daughter's 11. It's traumatic for the 11-year-old as well. This is a lot. So, best practices, everyone. And yeah, that's the conspiracy version of just asking questions, right? Maybe the news station is what? Sorry, I wanted to. Okay. As a parent of a 14-year-old, no one would fake that, right? Chrissy, what happened was Ted Cruz's older daughter, insofar as we know, I have not seen it actually specified, but it is presumed to be his 14-year-old, attempted self-harm last night. And he's in Washington, D.C., so his wife and I presume his wife and his other daughter were at home when it happened or discovered her or something. But the paramedics and police were at their house, and I presume he's going to be flying home. I can't imagine not. There's no word. Somebody wrote earlier, there's no word whether he plans to travel home to, get the fuck out of her. Of course he's going to go home and see her. Get out of town. I'm sure he's arranging to get the fuck out of there. Even for him, that's an absurd question. Of course. So, it's a terrifying situation for everybody involved. It's heartbreaking. It is all too common, and it's no less worse depending on who it happens to, especially when it's a minor child of someone who openly picks fights against people. It's not her fault. her dad is the way he is, and her pain is, we can't know whether it's directly linked to, how she feels about him or anything like that, and it's kind of immaterial, because once it reaches that point, we're off the charts of that kind of blame and repercussion. Thank you. Can you please discuss the incoming Congress's ability to fund Ukraine? Also, Phil's take on that will be interesting. Thank you. Yes, Buddha and the Eagle, absolutely. Phil will be on in about 8 minutes, hopefully, and I'll bring him on. But they're not going to be able to do it. Anything that passes the House has to pass the Senate and then go back to it, even when it comes to military funding and that kind of stuff. So if they try to withhold it, what basically the Senate will have to do is and they have the votes to do it, is put the funding in something that has to pass, and it will get passed in the House. And there's no way they don't bring it to the floor. So in my opinion, it's not a question at this point. And there's the Freedom Caucus, or the small group of them, kind of like stomping their feet. They don't have a filibuster-proof majority or a control point, even under Kevin McCarthy, if he was to run it, that would stop it. I just don't see that happening. I see a lot, and especially when it comes to that stuff, you might see the audit bill go through, but it'll drag its feet, and it'll say 2 years after we can audit where the funding went, because you can tell from the audit what weapons were sold and where they went, because you can look at transport costs, like how much gas, how much fuel it takes to take something somewhere from another place. Will let the enemy know, in this case Russia, where it landed, when it was delivered, how long it took to get there, how many there might be just by weight. There's all kinds of ways you can look backwards on an audit or an expenditure, which is why the Pentagon's budget is so opaque. Because if you're clear, even if you're like, we should show the American taxpayer. Well, anything you show us, you show everyone else. There's not a magic wall. And so the idea that Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to put through some sort of audit of where the funds are going directly in Ukraine right now is an absurdity. And secondarily, what they'll do is they'll get a committee meeting where they'll get briefed by our intelligence services or the DOD, and they'll go, this is where it's going. But if we tell you, they're going to know, and people are going to die. Lots of people, civilians are going to die. And they'll come out, and then the maggots will be really mad because MTG and others will come out and kind of go, we're going to keep them accountable, and language like that. Yeah. Thanks, Westy. So, yeah. I think it's Congress and President have already taken care of arms for Ukraine. They're fine, by the way. And because of Lend-Lease, it doesn't matter. Because it's Lend-Lease, that's between the DOD and the Pentagon and the White House. So once Lend-Lease starts, we don't have to authorize, we're not giving that stuff to them. And any kind of money that we would give to Ukraine for infrastructure or financial support, like foreign aid kind of stuff, is already baked into next year's budget. And will be over the course of the next year. You're going to see next few months. You're going to see a couple of things put through. So, yeah. Hi, people. Let's see. Let me check. Yeah, we're about 5 minutes away. Be good. Lots going on in Ukraine this morning, obviously. And hi, chat room. Love you guys. All right. RNC chairs. Big fight over the RNC chair because everybody's going after Ronna McDaniel. Lee Zeldin is not running. He just announced that he is not running. Like everybody's mad at Ronna McDaniel as if it's her frigging fault. This, by the way, is not Ronna McDaniel. This is Harmeet Dillon. And Mueller, she points out that she actually is, she runs a law firm that represents Trump. So of course he wants her in there. He's going to be pushing for because he knows he's going to lose. So he wants to be the kingmaker. It's not going to happen. Like, this is it. This is, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the nail in the coffin. This is it. This is the straw that broke the camel's back across all like major conservative donor cycles across every, like, I mean, he shit the bed with his announcement. The Kanye, Nick Fuentes, Milo, gathering at Mar-a-Lago made it even worse. And then he fucking followed it up by saying, I don't know Nick Fuentes, but he never said, I disavow what he says. Now that I do know who he is, fuck that dude. He did the same thing he did with David Duke, because he thinks he can't waste a single, like, voter loss. And he doesn't recognize, he doesn't believe, I think in a lot of ways, that that there's going to be a loss of votes by supporting them. Like, he can't grasp that. It's really weird. So anyways, this was it, though. This whole, like, massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not. Okay. The termination of elements, articles of the Constitution, or any of that shit. No, it doesn't. It fucking well doesn't. Like, the man cannot, like, he's demanding they make him SCOTUS. It's so dumb. And it was never, I mean, this kind of blather is never going to, it did nothing but just, like, chuck shit in the face of all of his, like, his biggest donors and his most powerful supporters. And they just, that was it. They're all like, okay, DeSantis time. And, I mean, he's now just surrounded by maggots and QAnon freaks. It's not happening. My guess, she has no shot either. The other woman, Mike Pillow is running. Trump has said he supports him running, which is hilarious. Like, it's going to be a fucking dumpster fire. Come on. Come on. Come on. Do you know how much fun we're going to have? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how fun my show is going to be over the next little bit? These assholes are going to be, I don't even think they have the votes to make McCarthy speaker. How are they going to go without having a speaker? They would literally need, like, the Democratic votes to get somebody else's speaker. Can you imagine? Yeah, this is when he launched. So, like, this is, and this is, okay. Democrats are running scared that the RNC will elect Mike Lindell as their RNC chair. What? And this is Blue Politicus. Democrat, Labor, Lib Dem, Save Ukraine, Resist. I think they're being ironic. I hope so. With Zeldin announcing he won't run, who do you think should replace McDaniel? Well, clearly they're going to try Jim Jordan. I hope it's Louis Gohmert. He's got my please let it be Louis Gohmert, please. I don't ask much and I don't ask often. God damn it. Hold on one second. I'm going to check for a second and see if our dear friend Philip Bittner is with us. Give me 1 second and see if he's in. Yes, there he is. Okay, hold on 1 second. Then here we go. Hey, look at that. Coming in. It's all right. You're good. Coming in hot. And let's see. Coming back in. Give me a second. Oh, and I've got to do this. Crackly. I don't know if that affects what you guys are seeing. I'm gonna maybe I'll just reload this page because it's being weird. Yep. Okay, he's coming back. Should be all right. Here we go. And give me a second. Let me try to bring you up here in a second. Hey, give me 1 second. And we'll go to here and make sure that we have, where we go. I got to put him in. There you go. There's always this plug and play stuff that we have to do. Okay, there you go. And hopefully close. There we go. And yeah, should be all right. And then try to do this. And let's see. Can you? There you go. Let me make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. And then we'll go. I can indeed. And there he is. Yay. Now it's working.
Okay.
Now you're on
Yay.
screen and
Huzzah.
everybody. Philip Bittner, everybody, Philip Bittner. Philip's in Kiev right now, in Ukraine, where it is cold as balls, and there's lots going on. It's very cold.
Yeah, lots of snow.
It's the weather outside is indeed frightful. And
below freezing. That's going to be that's
key.
That's worth noting.
Yes, it is. It is definitely key. So, anyways, welcome. Glad you could be here.
Sure.
Always happy.
Well, you got to show. You got to run in about an hour or something. You got to show or something.
Yeah. Well, I got to do my second show from home, so I got to basically hit the road as soon as we're done. And
you're in LA and you're headed back to Vegas. Gotcha.
That's right.
Okay.
Because I did the big rock show last night.
So when do you have a hard out?
Like 10:30 my time.
That's what she said.
Yep.
Okay, so in about an hour.
That's right. And
cool. So we'll try and pack it all in. There's a lot to discuss.
That's right.
I mean, a lot to discuss. Well, let me start? Can I start with Monday?
Yeah.
Let me start with Monday, because remember the last time we spoke was on Saturday on the radio program, and I was telling you that I was pretty darn sure that we were going to get hit.
Yes.
And so I had a camera on my balcony that runs up one thoroughfare, and I had another camera on another balcony that I had running up another thoroughfare here in Kiev, so that I could just push play. Mm-hmm. They're in little thermal, heavy. They're GoPros that I put in like heavy weather casings. Although even they are like, the battery will die in 10 minutes. So,
right.
But anyhow, neither here nor there. So I had those set up on both balconies, and then I was sleeping with my helmet next to me, and I had my Canon camera with the longest lens that I have, because if I heard or saw something, I wanted to be able to run out on the balcony and get good shots of it, because that's why I'm here. I've got an area of the apartment that is it's my secure point. So I go, and this is all California earthquake training. There's an archway here that's got good solid concrete, and so that's where I'll go if it gets really nasty. So I go. I was planning on going out on the balcony, getting both GoPros started, running back to my hard point, and waiting to see how bad it was, and if it was sustainable, go out and get shots, because I was sure we were going to get attacked. Positive we were going to get attacked. And they like to attack us in the very early hours of the morning, and it's become almost a weekly thing. And they like to attack us because it's a rude awakening. Lots of people are still in bed.
Their guard is low. There's like this. There was a study done years ago that if you assault a facility, even with guards that are freshly awake who are on a different cycle, somewhere in the area of like 4:15 a.m. to 5:30 a.m., there's this area where nobody has it together. Like there's always a lag, even if you slept all day the day before and you work nights and that's your thing. That window of time militarily has turned out to be the main strike time. So it's not surprising.
So we were anticipating it very much on Monday morning, and then 5 o'clock rolls around, which is kind of like the beginning. 5, 6, 7, and then by 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, well, maybe they're not going to attack. Maybe they are still building up missiles for a massive onslaught or something.
Right.
So I got dressed. I quickly hopped in the shower and got dressed and went out to go buy provisions, because you're always buying provisions. You're always buying another blanket, another power bank, another, a bottle of, bottled water, thing. You're always preparing. So I went out and I grabbed some stuff, and it was while I was out that I heard about the drone strike at the 2 air bases.
Oh yeah, inside Russia.
Inside Russia, and not just inside Russia, like deep inside Russia.
Yeah.
At what would be like the equivalent, Engels Air Force Base would be the equivalent of take a pick of one of our Travis Air Force Base. It would be like one of our. It's a really big air base, and it's for them, the Ukrainians, to have hit it was pretty impressive. But we could talk about that in a little bit. But I just want to get through the narrative of what happened to me on Monday, because it's really interesting. So I was sure we were going to get attacked, and then we didn't get attacked, and I was like, okay, another week goes by. Maybe they're switching it up. Maybe they want to keep us on our toes constantly. So maybe this every Monday thing isn't going to be a thing all the time. Mm-hmm. Went out to go buy supplies, was having a quick a bite to eat, and that's when I saw the Ingalls attack stuff, and I was like, "Oh my God! They hit inside Russia. How amazing!" Did not put one and one together. On my way home, a buddy of mine who is in Kiev texts me and says, "This is for real. The air raid siren you're about to hear. They have launched a massive attack on us. Do not take this lightly. Get in place." So I ran back up to my apartment, put the GoPros back out, went to my safe location in my apartment, and nothing, because the air defenses stopped it. And it wasn't until the day ended on Monday that it just a light bulb moment happened. I was like, those two things were connected. Yeah, they were preparing to attack us on Monday, because if you look at the bomber that was hit, especially in the Ingalls Air Force Base, outside of Saratov, or in Saratov, there's a cruise missile on it. They were prepping to attack us, and the Ukrainians threw them off their footing because they attacked first. Mm-hmm. They attacked first, and so when they got attacked at those two different air bases, I am sure that Russian Air Command was on the phone to one another. Everybody, red alert, are we still a go on the missile attacks on Ukraine? Are we still a go on this? Well, are more of these drones coming? We don't know. Should we launch now? Should we pull stuff off the tarmac? It totally messed with their sequencing, which to my mind means the Ukrainians made the Russians dance to their tune. Yeah. It's a huge thing, a massive thing. And then we're not going to know this fully until the stories come out, months or years from now, or it leaks early or whatever. But I would not also be terribly surprised if one of the reasons why the air defenses were so good was because they were attacking in daylight as opposed to the early morning hours when they intended to, before these drone strikes by the Ukrainians. So suddenly now they're firing munitions that are going over Ukrainians' heads in broad daylight, and the Ukrainians are calling in and going, "Hey, I just saw a missile pass me." So air defenses then linked in. Monday was a master stroke in a defensive victory, in a defensive position in an air battle. I am so impressed. I'm so massively impressed and thankful, because I don't like getting shot at. But but what a day Monday was. A day Monday was. Yeah, it was incredible.
For people who don't know, that there were two attacks on air bases in that, by the way, that Ukraine has not officially taken credit for. They have, as a matter of fact, the Minister of Defense said, Russians have a history of smoking near places where they shouldn't smoke. That's how that is the joke. This is the joke. It's a running gag, and they use it. They literally, he says it when they ask him about it. They fuck with the Russians so heavily. The story was that on the Ingalls base, they hit a fuel truck, and that's how precise the attack was. And the fuel truck, and this, to your point, very well, considering what you're saying, may have been fueling the plane that was damaged, the bomber that didn't go into the air and wasn't doing. They were gearing that plane up to go do some damage, and they struck the fuel truck, and arguably, I don't know by how much, but expanded the impact of the explosion, but instead of just hitting a plane or just hitting the runway or whatever. But it damaged, like the Russians put out this thing that there was like a truck damaged and the tail of one other plane. They're not showing any of the rest of the area, even though it's visible from, satellite imagery. And basically the taxiway of this entire airport has a big crater in it because of this explosion. So you can't drive planes around it, or over it that are that big, because that's the nature that, it's like if you had little fighter jets or something, they could just go around it. It wouldn't matter. But planes that big need the whole a taxiway, and it messed it up. And it was distance-wise for people to understand. If you're using like the East Coast as kind of an example, this is like striking, I would go West Virginia, right? From the East Coast, almost that distance. Virginia, I would say, into like Eastern or Western Virginia. That's the distance.
I guess
to
so.
Ingalls.
I'd have to look at the map and compare it.
It's a long way.
It's a good distance.
Yeah. And so the fact that, and by the way, no word on whether it's officially a missile or officially a drone. Obviously the most logical conclusion is it was a drone that they just weren't tracking because they're stupid, and it hit, and because it was so specifically targeted. But it very well could have been some sort of a cruise missile. It's hard to even say. Yep. And the Ukrainians aren't saying which is smart.
Somebody was on the ground. Somebody was on the ground at both of those airfields. Somebody was targeting.
Yes.
Not only filming, but targeting. They were providing coordinates. That's why they were able to fire so precisely, and also they were able to strike at a time of their choosing. They knew what they were doing. They knew that Monday was coming, and they're like, you know what? You've hit us every Monday for the last 4 weeks. How about we hit you first and see how you like it? And it just it clearly sent the Russians scrambling, because eventually they did send. Now they sent there are those who say that the high measure of like 104 missiles were shot at us on Monday later in the day.
Sure.
But
like revenge.
The average number is like 70. No. That was the planned attack. That was supposed to happen at like 5 a.m. But because these missile strikes hit at these two airfields, Russian Air Command was like, what do we do? Call off the strikes until we figure out what's going on. Are more of these things coming? Everybody stand down. Let's go into a protective kind of like, they had to change their battle plan. And so that's why they didn't attack. They had intended to attack us, but they intended to attack us in the early morning hours, which is not what they normally do. But because the Ukrainians say, we're not going to wait for you to attack us. We're gonna send you a little something. It was Monday was a huge day in this war. It was, and also the fact that now Russians know that the Ukrainians. I mean, I'm here in Kiev, so we can hit them, and that's a very different metric. Somebody compared it to the Doolittle raids after Pearl Harbor. You familiar with those?
Yes.
The attacks after Pearl Harbor, where we firebombed Tokyo. It wasn't really strategically important, but it showed that we could hit back. And it was a major morale boost. And Monday was a major morale boost here. People aren't scared of the Russians anymore. They're just angry, really, more than anything else. It just pisses them off. Oh, we're not on the radio, so I can swear. Good.
Yes, you can.
Anyhow, so that was Monday. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the arrests in Germany? Do you want to talk about Time magazine? Do you want to talk about
Yes. So there's so much. There's I believe, obviously, not to be like, Russians everywhere, but there's definitely a seed of these 25 Germans. If people don't know, there were 25 Germans who were arrested across Germany. Well, not all of them were Germans. 22 2 of them were Germans, 3 other somebody else's. But 25 people were arrested in Germany for plotting a coup to overthrow the government. They were going to storm the Reichstag, which is so fucking 1930. But
even those words in one sentence, ooh, sends a shiver up your spine.
Right, exactly. And depending on the stories that I've read, because it's a serious thing that there were enough of these people and they were trying to coordinate, but it does reek of the sort of dumbassery of, people who have been huffing their own farts and believe they could actually pull this shit off, that they ultimately, like the 9 guys with nunchucks in Florida who are going to take on the U.S. government. There's an element of a little bit of that going on. But the idea is that they were fomented largely by our dear friends in Putin's little Macedonian hacker farm when it comes to those Florida guys. And the same thing could be said of these Germans as well. They want to they're trying to dismantle and destabilize European democracies and American democracies. So it wouldn't be surprising. I don't know if that, other than the fact that, they busted people like that, what's the story rotating around there, or the feeling there about? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the fact that there was at least one, probably more, with direct connections to the Russians, and had been had apparently been liaising with Russians. They have information, apparently the Germans do, of them having direct communication between Moscow and at least one person in this ring. I mean, a lot a lot of the Ukrainians I know, when I spoke to them about that today, were like, yeah, and like, this surprises you why? This is like, obviously, this is what they do. They know that they can't take on the West openly. And they know that any real actual conflict, they would lose. But what they can do is they can destabilize. They can foment
discord.
Foment discord. They can sow chaos. They can make people disenfranchised with the entire democratic process. They can support outright right-wing fascist movements. They bang on about how much they hate Nazis and fascism, but they know that they don't care when they use them as a tool. When it's an instrument of their aggression, they're fine with Nazis. Absolutely, 100% fine with Nazis. They'll foment a fascist attack on a democratic, a democratic state. They don't care about the fascism. They care about hurting the West.
Right.
They want to damage the West. They see the West as a direct threat to them. They see the West as an enemy to be defeated. And the sooner we recognize, I mean, I've been banging this drum for a long time, Hal. I really have, and I have been called. I've been called a Russophobe. I've been called, somebody who thinks there's Russians behind every tree. I think I've told you the story of when the DNC drop happened. I turned to my colleagues and was like, "That's the Russians," and they were like, "Oh, come on, Phil. Well, we know it was the Russians."
Yeah, right.
I've been screaming about this for a long time because we can't get out of our own heads. For some reason, we cannot get out of our own heads. And we have, no matter what we think of the Russians, it's important for us to understand what the Russians think about us, irregardless of what we think or do or anything. The Russians think they are at war with us. Either that or, in certain terms, they use the threat of us being at war with them to control their own population.
Their own people, right.
Right, because the deadly West is, and look, they have a history of being invaded. It's a hot ticket item for them. It's an open nerve. It's an open wound.
I will say, but the areas
that's what they're taught.
Yeah, I know, and that's also the areas that are invaded are the places they keep invading to take back. So, like, it's really, the perspective you could also have on it is that all these territories wanted to be free of the of Russia, of USSR control at one point, and the invasions themselves were really about separatists and those groups and separatist groups in those countries or those areas trying to get away, right? You know what I mean? back
the
and forth.
Mongols,
Right.
the Mongols,
Definitely.
and Napoleon.
Definitely.
The
Right.
Mongols, the Napoleon, and Hitler definitely invaded
Clearly.
to fuck with Russia. They
That's
wanted to
right.
fuck with Russia. The
That's
other
right.
kind of like creeping, like, are we like the Crimean War or the
Yes.
Cold War that happened in the 19th century between Britain and Moscow. All of those things where the machinations were like, oh, they're kind, but those three big invasions are matter of historical fact, and they play it up to their population. Someone's always going to try and come. Look at what happened with the Mongols. Look at what happened with the French. Look at what happened with the Nazis. It just the West is obsessed with us. They want to take our land. Of course. I mean, well, anyhow, that's not worth discussing deeply. But
Yes.
the problem is the point I try to make, and the point I think that this German investigation shows, not much, not to mention the 2016 election
I'm losing
in the US.
audio on you for a split second. I think everybody else can hear you, but I think you were choppy on my end. I'll try and fix it. It's like it's been a weird. Here, hold on. I think I might have a workaround.
The 70s were a weird time, man.
Yeah, right. They were, brother. Wow.
You remember that? You remember that Do you remember that WKRP moment when Johnny's sitting there and
the drinking
and the
episode?
No, the boss, and he's in the booth. And he goes, "The '60s were a weird time, man." Okay, so basically, my point with this whole discussion of Russians behind every tree and all the rest of it is that we have to in the West recognize, and the sooner we do it, the better, that they think they're at war with us and they are acting accordingly. If we thought we were about to be invaded or attacked or whatever, we would equally, maybe if it was a greater power. This is difficult to say because, of course, the United States is militarily the greatest power on the planet. Right. But logically, you can, if you get into their mind space, if you get into their head, you can understand what it is they're doing. It doesn't justify what they're doing, but we have to recognize they think they're at war with us, and they think they've been at war with us for a very, very long time.
For the record, there's my uncle's ex-FBI, and there was a statement at the FBI for a very long time in trying to fix a lot of the worst among us in America, that most people meet their serial killer halfway. And that they would interview all these serial killers and they would all go, it was amazing how many people they didn't attack when they had the impulse to do it. And it was a series of things that made them do it. The person spent too much, glanced over their shoulder. It was just enough. The person was aware of their surroundings when they were unlocking their car. They were just little things because the person wasn't thinking like a person who's never going to be attacked, but just a little bit of heightened awareness. You don't have to be paranoid. You don't have to be hyper suspicious, but you got to be an adult realizing you're in public and a lot of moving parts exist in the world and not everybody around you is a good person. So just doing that, the simplest things, like somebody, like even turning around and checking the street behind them when they've been walking for a long time, or, when they were jogging, if they turned their head a bunch of times, they would survive. And these people would tell these killers would tell these stories of people who weren't paranoid, but were like, I got to be aware. There's definitely people in the world that mean me ill. The chances of there being somebody there is fairly small, but I can't be dumb about it. And there's an element of, as Americans, we do have a bit geopolitically of meeting our serial killer halfway when it comes to the Russias, the Chinas of the world, and, to a less extent, maybe OPEC and the Saudis, I would count in that zone.
Well, Al-Qaeda. Yeah. They telegraphed that from way back when. They told us they were coming. We just chose not to listen or take it seriously.
Right.
And the sooner we recognize that sometimes when these people say this crazy stuff about us and threaten us,
they mean it.
They mean it. They mean it. And we better prep for it. So, look, I am not surprised by Germany.
Yeah.
I am not surprised at all. And also, this will not stop. This isn't going to stop anytime soon.
Right.
We do this. Look, we spy on people all the time. We We do all sorts of nasty plots and plans, and I mean, it's kind of what covert operations and intelligence gathering is all about.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to understand that the Russians are already at a heightened state of what they consider to be war with us, and they have been for a really long time. I would argue, I don't know if it was Serbia that did it more, or if because Serbia was weird, because then you had 9/11 happen, and the Russians actually found it advantageous for us to get engaged in a whole bunch of wars, and so they weren't as aggressively attacking us during that period of time. But then I would say maybe it was 2008 and the Georgian War, potentially. I don't know. But they at some point decided, okay, we're back at it. And they have done everything that they could to destabilize every strong democratic state, and most notably us. So we better be aware of that. That's what Germany was about for me.
So I don't know if this is included in both, or if it's just overlapping stories, or just the time it takes for stories to get out. But apparently there was a drone strike at the Kursk airport as well, which is closer to the border.
Right. Yeah.
And there is the fire at the which might make it 3 at this point, depending. 3 airports with strikes on them, and the second one, not the Engels, but the other one is, and I'm blitzing on the name right now, of the 2 airports that were hit on Monday.
Like
that. Yeah. It's still on fire. It has been burning for 2 days. Whatever they hit there, they believe it was a fuel depot. And then the same thing is true of the one at the Kursk airport. They hit a fuel depot there, because that's why I think there's a chance that the other ones were indeed drones, not missiles, because they can, you don't have to target it from far away and hope that it locks. Although these days, I mean, smart missile is going to smart missile, I suppose. But the idea that drones should in some way, be able to loiter for a while and then go in, at the right time. And they seem to, I don't know why. Maybe they just are too arrogant to think they have to defend themselves that far into the country. They just don't think it's necessary.
You know what? I think so. I think that's part of it. At the very least, I think that's part of it. And part of it is also underestimating the Ukrainians. You know, because this was a Ukrainian. I think it's also really important to mention these were Ukrainian munitions, whatever they turn out to have been. But I think it was really smart for Blinken to come out on Monday and be like, nothing to do with us. We didn't give him anything. We didn't target anything. We had nothing to do with that. That was all Ukraine. Which I think is great. And is also true. The Ukrainians are not sitting around just taking weapons from the West. The drones that hit the ships in Sevastopol, roughly a month ago, that was cobbled together here in Ukraine. Yeah, they bought webcams or whatever from Canada, and they had a kayak that they bought from whoever, and they put all these things together to make a nautical drone, but it was their creation. And it's been fascinating to see that dynamic as well, because another thing that we have to really start thinking about, and the sooner we do, the better, is that the Ukrainians have agency. They make their own decisions. They decide what to hit and when to hit. They're running this war the way they're going to run this war. We will certainly have influence, but we are not. Not going to tell. Right. Yeah, we're not going to tell Kiev what to do. They have been a colony before. They have no intention. Been there, got the T-shirt. They're not going to be a vassal state
either. Right. Well, and it's also and like I said, that Jocko Willink interview was fantastic, where he was like, if America was in that business, we would own Germany and Japan right now. We don't. It's not in our interests long term. We simply don't. Like, having a military base in a country you have a relationship with is wholly different than turning them into a satellite for you and controlling every economic move they make, likened to, I think, Russia and and Georgia and Chechnya and those kind of things, where they take over enough of the country to control every aspect of its military or industrial life as well. So the other thing that's really odd, I find, in timing of all this stuff, is that the Russians deployed defensive missile systems on the northern Kuril Islands around Japan.
Yes.
Like, what?
I love that. I love that. I just love that. I think that's the funniest thing ever.
And especially since it's missile defense systems and they just got hit by a drone or a missile on their own bases inside their own fucking country. Where did they pull those working systems from and ship them to the Kuril Islands? I mean, that's amazing.
Well, I think that was a political move, actually. I don't think that was strategic, nor do I think it was military. I think that was them telling Tokyo and them telling the West in general and all who would ally with the West that, we're not going to lose territory. We're not giving up any of our territory. I mean, the Kuril. Do you know the story of the Kuril Islands? Do you know how they got the Kuril Islands? Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was like the last week.
Right.
Well, no, it was like currently. It was like the last week of World War II. It was like the last few days, and the because there already had been victory in Europe, and so they just shoved everything east. And we're like, we're at war with Japan now too, and they just took whatever they could grab.
Right?
Yeah, they took whatever they could grab, and Uncle Joe was part of the Allied effort. So we kind of went, okay, you're against Japan, we're against Japan, that's fine. Totally opportunistic. They just grab. They're and also, I don't know if you've ever seen photographs of the Kuril Islands. They're useless. They're these rocky, they're useless rocks in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
It's absolutely inhospitable, but it gives them a strategic advantage, and it gives them
they can call it
point.
there. Well, as we know about
So
Crimea,
funny.
and one of the reasons why they wanted Crimea was because the oil and gas that was discovered in the Black Sea around Crimea, if you take a territory internationally, you own like 250 kilometers out from the automatically from the beach. So wherever, or the farthest reef even. So like if you have a reef that's a mile or two out, it's even 250 past that, right? So the reason they wanted that area was because of all the oil and gas that was found there. The same thing is true about shipping lanes and paying duty
or just having
and fisheries.
I mean, it's like Snake Island at the beginning of this war. Why was Snake Island so important? Well, because you can put a missile battery there, and then from that missile battery, you can influence trade routes, and you can influence naval maneuvers. But I don't think that's what Kuril was about. I think Kuril was definitely just a symbol, because there's no military engagement. Nobody's going to be shooting at Vladivostok. It's ridiculous.
Right. Well, but there's this idea of like partnering with China, where if China decides to call Russia in to do something, because there's disputed islands between Japan and China that are a much bigger deal, and China's always elbowing them, that they're going to take those the same way they talk about Taiwan. A lot of times, it's just they vacillate between the importance of them priority wise, and so it's conceivable that the Russians are, the Chinese request the Russians to go to the Kuril Islands just to be like an annoying, top strategic partner above Japan that, that they can call on in case of emergency break glass.
And if we got into something in Taiwan, that would then our carrier groups would then have to take into consideration that going into certain waters, you would be susceptible to possible attack.
In range of Russian
and yes,
missiles,
absolutely, 100%. But I think this particular move, all it was a flex. That's all it was. It was just a flex. Just to go, we're big and strong, and look at us, and we can put stuff on the Pacific and on the Atlantic and on the Black Sea, and we're big
we got
and
both
mean.
Kinds of music, country and
Be
Western.
Scared and Western. Be scared of us. Be scared of us.
Well, and that I guess it plays a bit into the Ruski Mir idea of, the
That too.
Russian world idea
too.
that we're everywhere, and maybe a little bit gives a goose to the people on Channel 1 who were flipping the fuck out. You thought Laura Ingraham was pissed last night. Oh my God.
Funny. Oh, that was so funny.
And it's just going to get worse because they're getting to this
I haven't
point
even watched it all yet. I haven't even watched it all yet because I've kind of been running around a little bit today.
I'll let you. No. I'm going to let
like
you.
Like a dessert.
And it'll age. The great thing is, like these, Jimmy Dore's failed. Ukraine is a failed state from April.
Yeah. I saw a little something from his little toady. He's got his little toady that spouts off about his
Jackson Finkel.
Einhorn
Finkel.
Yeah, I mean, just
Finkel is Einhorn Finkel.
There's little Aryan mother.
Totally. He's a Larouchian. That dude's a Larouchian. It's like a Lyndon Larouchian.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing that they.
I've watched. I have suffered through enough of his bullshit, and I've been so tempted to take him on, but it's like one of those things that
it's silly.
It is. It is. I have gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, this idiot doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, it's not even worth the conversation at a point. Like some people,
he did a thing a few days ago about there's this ongoing thing with the Orthodox Church. Not worth going into right now because we have such limited time. We'll talk about it some other time. But he did this thing, the whole thing about the Orthodox Church and Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church and the split and how that happened. Because Zelensky's been cracking down on the Russian Orthodox Church because they've been helping the Russians inside Ukraine.
Because they're taking orders from Putin's Pope or the dude who keeps
the patriarch Kirill, who is buddy with Putin. And he did this whole thing about how awful it was that he was crushing the Orthodox Church and stopping people from worshiping. It's like, oh, dipshit, you don't even know the differences between the different sects of Orthodoxy. So I saw a little bit of his reaction to the missile strikes today.
They're going
his whole
into churches.
He was banging on about how a missile hit Moldova, and it very well could have been another situation like in Poland where it was air defense and maybe it was a Ukrainian. What he won't go into is the fact that neither Poland nor Moldova is going to say boo about it because they're like, go kill Russians because after Ukraine, they're coming for us. Then we're next.
After that.
We're next. So the Moldovans, even if it was a Ukrainian missile, are going to be like, fuck it. Okay. That sucks. Try not to do that anymore.
They were trying to hit something coming at us because Russia's deciding to kill us. So thanks for the help. There's so much to cover.
Talk about. So much to talk about.
So much.
I wish you had more time, buddy.
I know.
I guess I'll have to hold it for Tom tomorrow.
Oh, cold-blooded. So, I will.
You're my boo. No, you're number one.
Fear not. Oh, fear not. So,
But I will be on with Tom Hartman tomorrow at.
I know that's right.
12. I believe it's 12 Eastern. We'll be doing it. So
that's exactly right.
There you go. Thanks to the sparklers. There will be an ear poll.
And thank you for doing it on a day I don't have a morning show, so there's no overlap. See how that worked out? Like it's magic.
Go.
Yeah.
So Kismet.
Yes, exactly. So okay. So 3 airports.
So what else?
Two bombers destroyed.
Germany. Zelensky's time of the year.
That's
man
right.
of the year.
Man of the year. That's
right.
Talk
about that?
Which is. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean the teeth grinding.
Or do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the dancing Ukrainian female soldier?
Oh, well, what about her other than I've seen the video? What?
You've seen the video. Have you seen the reaction from the right and the kind of incel, nutter butters who are out there who are just losing it? Oh, absolutely losing it. I posted it and people were all over me. They attacked, and I was like, "What? There are Ukrainian dancing videos like since the war began.
Right.
People have been doing dancing, soldiers dancing on the
Right.
front line, keeping up their morale, and also showing
Right.
we're not afraid and all this. There are a million reasons for doing it.
Right.
So what is it with this? And I went, oh, it's a pretty girl, and she
Right.
dances well, and she's got
Yeah.
a good figure.
Right.
And they just
And that's-
went nuts. This is
they've been-
disgusting.
Another
They're
wife
dancing
I've been
while people are
denied.
dying. Yeah,
This is ridiculous.
Exactly.
She should be over here cooking me breakfast. Make me a sandwich. She's my woman. Why is they're wasting perfectly good women and I can't find one? I was at the mall all day yesterday and none of those hogs can dance. This is terrible. What about me?
It
and
is an
my
adorable
penis?
video. She is
It is.
absolutely adorable, and she's got some
Oh,
great
no.
moves. I mean, she is.
Yeah, I know.
She is
it's like-
keeping warm. She is
It's
keeping
impressive.
It's not fair though. She needs to go.
No.
I ordered her from the catalog 2 fucking years ago, and she has not showed up.
I have
I'm
to pay
calling-
$15 every minute to chat with her, and she doesn't send me a video like that.
She was on her OnlyFans like yesterday, and she was talking to somebody like Gary. I'm like, my name's a fucking Gary. At least pretend to say my name once in a. It's like, come on.
Just so great. Yes, somebody in the chat is
Oh, it
pointing
made
out,
me
like,
laugh.
remember when everybody was losing their shit about AOC dancing, and that was an old video of her in college before she ran, and it was just, and it wasn't that they were freaking out. It was like, oh my God, she's gorgeous was the problem.
Yeah,
that was
and she's got good
entirely it. They were like,
moves. She's got good moves and rhythm, and she's
Of course, she
obviously
turns out to
having
be a
fun.
lefty, which means she won't even like do stuff. She'll probably only have sex for procreation, like a bunch of bullshit, and then she's not even going to carry the kid.
like just they're just so
I
mad.
mean, there are all these. The funny thing is, it also is like this was a thing done by. I don't know if it was done by or if it just kind of became one of these like, it's Ike's Bucket Challenge kind of like viral things that happen. But apparently within the Ukrainian military, there's a whole series of videos that have come out in the last like 5 days. The weather has dropped significantly in the last 5 days or so. So apparently there has been this viral video movement within the Ukrainian military. I've seen a good 10, 15 of these things of guys like dancing in the snow. The point is keep the body temperature, keep moving, don't succumb to the cold. And there are tons of these things. There's one video with a pretty girl.
It's not just one
Just
video. Look,
give
I
it
don't
one
care
more,
about this.
and everybody
There's
goes,
2 guys.
how disgusting! How disgusting!
I know.
There are shots being fired in the background. People are dying. How dare you dance?
Right,
Shut up.
this is witchcraft. I told you it's witchcraft. I gotta turn this
me
off.
with her pelvic movements.
Right, she's hypnotizing me. I'm losing. Now she caught me scrolling, and now I have to look at those 2 guys playing shirtless basketball in the snow. It's disgusting.
And that makes me feel kind of funny too. I don't know what that's
Yes,
about.
I was so confused by my own feelings.
So, apparently
just-
people are enjoying the incel voice.
The other side is just so pathetic. They really are just so sad. I mean, they're like all the, and I hear all this like, God, I still hear all this the crap that's being put out about like, oh, they're denazifying Ukraine. Fuck off.
Yeah,
oh my God!
You're still doing that fucking talking. Alex Jones did it on Steven Crowder's fucking show, like day before yesterday, about like
Candace
the Azov
Owens
Battalion
put something out,
putting their blood in the soil and doing it. And I'm like, okay, first of all, fucko. Pagan and Norse rituals existed well before the fucking Nazis, and the Nazis co-opted those things the same way they co-opted the fucking cross. They didn't believe any of it. They just stole it. And so even Slavic people who are reclaiming their Nordic religion stuff and doing the Nordic religious rites doesn't make them fucking Nazis because any more than Tibetan Buddhists are fucking Nazis because the Nazis stole the swastika from them. It's like the hook cross. The Horcrux, which they is shown up all over the world. It's on Aztec temples. It's on Buddhist temples. It's not a high thought to try to create a
they are
plus sign
here.
with arms.
There are there are Nazis in Ukraine. There are fascists in Ukraine, 100%. And interestingly enough, there's even an organization that's pretty dodgy. Yeah. There's actually, there's also an organization called the Right Sector,
the Republican
the
Party.
Private Sector. Yeah. The Private Sector, the Right Sector over here. They are pretty unpleasant guys.
Yeah.
But they're paramilitary. They have not been officially drawn into. Well, that may not be factually accurate, but they're really, really a small group, but they're really disturbing and they're unpleasant. But the Azov guys, no, absolutely not. I mean, there might be a contingent in there, but they cleared it out. And also, in addition to that, the Azov are a huge part of the military. And they run the gamut of political beliefs. But what they also are, and why why I think that the Russians don't fixate on private sector, which is right. It's sitting right there. It's red meat if you want it, because they are. Right. They're ugly. They hold some really disgusting views. Right. But they're a small group. But then over here you have the Azov, and they're kicking ass. Yes. And they are really bringing it to the Russians. They fought them to a standstill in a whole bunch of different places, not least of which Mariupol. But they're kicking the Russians' ass. So I wonder, I have upon occasion wondered, why don't they go after the private sector, but they do go after Azov? Could it be because the private sector is actually a pretty ineffectual small group, and the Azov is big and also really effective and kicks Russia's ass repeatedly
all the time? Right. Which again, there's always this, the issue you run up against, even with like the accusations about Azov or even the past stuff, is that ultimately, these are white people fighting white people largely. And it's the Russians who are like, we want to wipe out all of these people. Like, if you're going to say Nazism is defined by a behavior, and that is, primarily, what is, like to quote Jiminy Glegg, like, why you always got to knock the Nazis? Oh, it's time for Mel Brooks to knock the Nazis. What I think they're rude. I guess. Is the defining factor
That's
of them?
such a great bit. I love
so
that with
good.
Mel Brooks. It's so brilliant.
It's so
why are you always knocking the Nazis?
Nazis, it's like, I don't know, they're rude. I guess. But what is the defining aspect of Nazism? Other than genocide, that is the primary. Is it socialism? No. Is it nationalism? No. Is it national socialism? No. Because none of that matters. Is it even the political manipulation of the beer push to get in office? No. That's been done in many societies. I think the primary thing, the line, besides invading other countries, which other countries have also done over time to try to take territory, that's the history of humanity, is the whole point of once we get in there, we're going to kill everyone. Because we want to be the only race on the planet. That is literally the defining aspect of Nazism that makes it the as evil as it is.
If you're different than us, we're going to kill you.
What's the difference between that and Ruski Mir? Explain to me what is the fucking difference? Because they're talking about it's not like Russian citizenship. It's Russian people.
One of the things that's been so amazing for me to be in Ukraine, and also having traveled throughout Eastern Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, there are a lot of countries in the former Warsaw Pact that are actually a lot more. I mean, look at Hungary. Right now, look what Orban is doing in Hungary, for example. Right. Okay, you want to talk about some really dangerous far right stuff? Look at Orban. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's happening here in Ukraine for a variety of reasons, not least of which is because the Russians like to bang on about their fight against the Nazis in Germany. Most of that battle actually happened here in Ukraine. Proportionately, a lot more Ukrainians were killed.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Hands of the Nazis. Yeah,
right. That's what I was saying. All the places, we always are getting invaded. You know what's being always invaded? The territories they lost. Right. Ukraine, Georgia.
So, So, what I am witnessing firsthand, not only because they paid such an awful cost in the Second World War, and there's no love for the Nazis and then the Second World War in those terms, because a lot of their grandfathers were killed, grandfathers were killed, or sent to camps, or I mean, you name it. All the horrors of the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union happened right here in Ukraine. The Germans hated Ukrainian nationalists as much as the Soviets did, because they recognized that a strong, independent Ukraine would be a threat to any country on the continent, which we will discuss another time, I am sure. But Europe had better start to recognize very soon they're going to have a really big, powerful country that is going to be independent and self-determining and will have a massive influence.
Economy.
The balance of power in Europe is going to change. But I want to get to this point because I know you got to go. And I got to get to this point because it's something I think it's really important, worth mentioning. So I've been around Eastern Europe a lot, been to a lot of different countries, and there's a lot of problems in those countries. Sure. What is happening here is different, because I am seeing people who are in the midst of a war. They're in the midst of a war in which their young men and women are dying, in which their cities are being bombed, in which they're suffering a hell of a lot. And I have spoken to so many Ukrainians who have said to me, it has to be for something. It can't just be, we're going to, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we have to throw off the dominance of Moscow. We have to get rid of the Russians. We have to get independent of the Russians and have an independent, non-vassal, non-colonized state. That is first and foremost. But secondly, after that, it has to mean something. It has to have all the blood, all the suffering, all the loss has to something has to come as a result of this. So I hear time and time again, the second we win this war, we're going after the corruption in this country. I hear time and time again, the second we're done with this war, we're going to build a real judiciary, an independent court that will establish the rule of law. We will have rights for the LGBTQ. We will have a multi-ethnic, multiracial. We will strive for all the best of what is in liberal democracy, because we're fucking dying. We're fucking dying for this. We're fighting a war. So at the end of all of this, I am cautiously optimistic. I know that the war is going to go in Ukraine's favor, but I am also cautiously optimistic that they really are going to make something of this country. Because when you go through a baptism of fire like this, you want it to mean something. You want your friends and family and all the shit to mean something. This is a place to watch.
I have to say, the idea that there would be a democracy, on par with, what the United States tries to do as far as, like democratic influence in that part of the world, especially in leading Eastern Europe, is incredibly important. And without the baggage that Germany has, and without the kind of, flexibility and kind of lack of backbone that France can have sometimes. Or
the Brits with their sense of like, we're not really European, we're kind of Anglo-American, we're kind of this. None of that's going to be here.
Yeah, Ukraine's dead center in the middle of it, and it's also
the madness of Italy,
and there's the bridge to Northern Europe. Yeah, to the Slavic states, to between them and Sweden. It's going to be great. If they can,
this place is going to be, if they get it right, get it right, and it's easier said than done.
They will.
Yes, I think eventually they will do it. Eventually, I have very little doubt that they will do it. But the fight might actually be harder to do that than this fight against these yahoos coming in from Russia who haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing when it comes to warfare.
I mean, it'll be longer. It won't be harder. You know what I mean? It'll be different. It's always a struggle. I mean, look at the bullshit we're going through. With Judge Cannon in Florida and shit like that. So we got about 5 minutes left, and I do want to talk a little bit about the EU gas cap went on. The oil cap went on at $60 a barrel, and everyone was expecting that, and of course Russia's like, we won't honor it and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't quite matter because it's a matter of sanction to other countries. So they have to recognize that if they want to participate with the rest of the world economy, they can't help fund this shit. And, it's as simple as like, if you've got a neighbor and you buy, their kid sells Girl Scout cookies and your kid sells chocolate bars for band camp and they go back and forth and blah, blah, blah. But eventually you find out that their kid, their eldest son assaulted someone in the neighborhood and they won't, cop to it, or they expect him to walk around freely in the neighborhood. You're like, I'm going to pass on the cookies this year. Sorry. We're not going to, the neighborhood hang is canceled for you guys until you work that shit out. It's kind of, a matter of scale in terms of that. But when they put the cap on, the idea is like, oh shit, that's going to send oil prices up because it will lower the output from Russia, and therefore OPEC will have to increase, will decrease production to try and, keep the price up because it's been established at 60 and blah, blah, blah. It's at $72 right now. I don't think people recognize that there's too much oil for demand in the world, and that a lot of the reason people were getting it from Russia is because it was cheaper, and they totally environmentally bullshit and how they get it out of the ground. So they kind of, they could produce it at a lower rate. But now that they can't pipeline it and they have to ship it, and that takes 28 days just to get it to China, and we're not interested. The United States is doing demand destruction all over the fucking place. So is the EU. The EU wants to get all consumer vehicles off of gasoline ASAP so that we're no longer reliant on that shit to drive our vehicles and push our economies. It's a waste of fucking time. And that's not changing. And the oil futures for 2023, when that cap was announced, went down. Everybody was like, oh, they're going to go up because the good oil will drive, the cost of good oil versus bad oil will. Nope, didn't happen. It's not going to happen. And if the rest of the world is paying $72 a barrel and Russia needs 60 to break even to buy food and medicine and tires and I was about to say airplane parts, but they're not even bothering. You might as well buy from the guy who isn't trying to destabilize the entire world order. And then everything, trust me, everything's going to cost a lot more if Russia's successful in what it's going to do, because then the cat's out of the bag. They'll control it. Right.
Yeah. So
we'll
pay the extra $12 for being able to predict what's going to happen in 5 years, as opposed to you crazy assholes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know, $12 a barrel. And by the way, it's going to keep going down. And so the funny thing is we're going to get close to the cap price for regular oil for everybody else's.
They're so fucked. Fucked.
By the way, Russia is, and even with that $60 cap, I'll leave it on this note, and then we'll sign off. And I adore you. Everybody follow Philip Ittner on Twitter, and of course watch him on Tom Hartman tomorrow, and then of course sign up for his YouTube channel. All that stuff is that Russia is already charging half price. They're getting $33 a barrel for oil from China and India. $33 a barrel, and it takes them, like I said, they have to boat it. Takes them 28 days. In some cases, when they go through the Black Sea, they have to switch ships. They have to take it off one ship and put it on another ship. And China has just said they are not going to honor the insurance papers of Russian ships docking in their ports, delivering the oil in the first fucking place. Again, Russian oil has to be 60.
Putin has fucked his country.
He's fucked his country into.
Fucked his country.
Yeah, it's done. It's going to take them 20 years. Look at Japan in 1990. It's going to take them 20 years just to recover, even if this was just an economic impact, not the fact that they're a fucking pariah on the goddamn planet. It's amazing. Meanwhile,
Ukraine is going to go from success to success.
Exactly, right. And the United States is the strongest economy on the planet, bar none. Yep. And China is
and democracy is on the rise, and
fucking free fall.
Is fucked.
I know, and all the right people are mad, Philip. All the right people are mad.
I'm loving every second of it.
I know. It's like
I'm Schöngreta and all
yes, right. I mean, it's hard.
4 tears.
We have no illusions
yummy.
that tough times always lie ahead, and there's always challenges and stuff. But by comparison,
oh God, yes.
But by comparison, the mess that this asshole has made of his country in attempting to
Oh, yeah.
destroy another
Oh,
one.
I know. Hey,
And
I'm
ours.
not, I don't have rose-colored glasses on
Nope.
when it comes to my own country or countries, both Britain and the United
Right.
States. But I know which side of the fence I'd rather be on.
Right.
Because I've lived in Islamic countries. I have lived in Russia. I have lived in despotic countries, and I know
The difference. Right.
which country I would rather live in.
Right.
And as bad as it is, the West is better,
So-
baby.
yeah, so
Sorry,
great.
but it is.
Yep. Get used to the
Anyhow.
idea. And all we got to do is
I'll
keep making it
go
better.
have a great afternoon show,
Thank
buddy.
you.
I'm going to have dinner, and then I'm going to watch for dessert a whole bunch of crying people on Russian television.
All right.
And I'm going to laugh.
You're gonna, yeah.
Oh,
I
it's gonna be
just
so
picture
sweet.
you just holding a bowl of ice cream or something, going,
Yum,
spitting
yum,
it
yum.
on your
Oh,
screen.
hello, Margarita Salmonia.
Yeah,
Are
and
you happy today? Oh, you're not happy.
You're not happy
What
today.
happened, Margarita?
Listen, she should be over here married to me. Listen, she like I heard. Look, if I can't get my Ukrainian wife, I want my Russian wife. And why is she on television? They shouldn't be on television in the first place.
All right. Anyways, much love, brother. Thank
Have a
you.
great day, Al.
Thank you.
Thanks, all the sparklers. Watch me on Tom tomorrow, and then
Yep.
I'll be on with you on Saturday, right?
That's right. Oh, yeah. We'll have plenty to talk about then, too. All right.
All right,
Much love.
buddy.
All
Drop
right,
me
be
a
safe.
line. Always
Yes.
good talking to you.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good
see
one. Have a
see
good
you later.
day.
Okay.
See you, buddy.
Cheers. And thank you guys in the chat for joining me today for HAL Sparks Mornings Mega Worldwide. I'm going to throw all my stuff in my bag and beat feet and head out again. Like I said, I am. By the way, last night was the jam. It was a jammy jam. It was a good time. It was so good. Debbie Holiday was amazing. Phil X performed from his own band, The Drills, and Bon Jovi. Amazing dude, just a sweetheart. Just like heavy hitters all around. And I'm going to be hosting that going forward until they get tired of me, and that's not going to happen for a long time because I'm lovely and charming and can sing like a maniac, and so it's going to be good. I think the next one might be January 15th. I think that's the date. That's the next Tuesday we'll be up after the new year, taking like a week and change off, and then getting back into it. And then everyone's like, "Get a nap." No, I got to go drive a car. So. I will see you guys this afternoon. If I'm a little bit late for the afternoon show, please forgive. I'll text, but I am doing an afternoon show. It just takes, if I run into some traffic, excrement occurs. All right. I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for giving me your eyeballs with some regularity. You honor me with your presence and your attention, and I will never forget it. And it's just great. And these are the days of our lives. And I'll see you later. Okay. Bye.